I'll never forget the night we heard the tree scream. It was late and most people in the village had already gone to bed. I was sitting outside my hut trying to cool down from the heat of the day. The air was still heavy with silence when it happened. A loud, piercing cry echoed through the village, coming from the old baobab tree at the edge of the forest. The tree had been there for as long as anyone could remember. It was huge, its branches stretching out like giant arms. The elders said it was sacred, that spirits lived inside it, but nobody really believed them. It was just a tree. But that night, something was different. The scream sounded human, like someone was in terrible pain. My skin crawled, and I felt a cold sweat on my back. I wasn't the only one who heard it. People started coming out of their homes, whispering and looking at the tree with wide eyes. Some of the older villagers said we should go and see what was happening, but most of us were too scared. The sound came again, louder this time, and I swear I saw the branches of the tree move, even though there was no wind. The village chief and a few brave men decided to check it out. They grabbed their torches and walked slowly toward the tree. The rest of us stayed behind, holding our breath, afraid of what they might find. As they got closer, the screaming stopped. It was dead quiet. The men reached the tree and circled it, shining their torches up into the branches. They didn't find anything, no sign of anyone or anything that could have made the noise. But then, just as they were about to turn back, one of the men noticed something strange. There were marks on the trunk, deep scratches that hadn't been there before. It was like someone, or something, had clawed at the tree, trying to get out. The chief told everyone to stay away from the baobab after that night. He said the spirits were angry, though no one knew why. We all listened, keeping our distance, but the tree still haunted us. Sometimes, late at night, I could still hear that scream in my dreams, and every time I passed by the tree during the day, I could feel it watching me. Days turned into weeks, and the fear in the village grew. People started avoiding the path that led near the baobab, and children were warned to never play close to it. Even the birds and animals seemed to avoid the tree now. The air around it felt different, heavier, as if the tree itself was carrying a burden too great to bear. One night, as I was lying in bed, I heard the old village healer, Mama Nene, talking to my father outside. She was a wise woman, known for her deep knowledge of the ancient ways, and she spoke in hushed tones as if sharing a secret too heavy for the night to hold. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught enough to know that she believed the tree was not just a tree but a vessel, a home for spirits who had once lived and now sought rest. The next day, I gathered the courage to ask Mama Nene about the tree. She looked at me with eyes that seemed to have seen far too much, and after a long silence, she told me the story. Long ago, she began, this village was not as peaceful as it is now. There was a great drought and many people were suffering. The chief at that time, desperate to save his people, made a pact with the spirits of the forest. He promised them a place to rest in exchange for their help in bringing rain and prosperity back to the land. The spirits agreed, and soon after, the rains returned, and the village flourished once more. She paused, looking out toward the baobab tree. The spirits chose that tree as their resting place, and for many generations, they were at peace. But something has disturbed them. Perhaps it was our neglect, or maybe something has happened in the spirit world that we cannot understand. I listened, feeling a chill run down my spine. What can we do? I asked, my voice trembling. Mama Nene shook her head slowly. Sometimes, there is nothing we can do. The spirits have their own ways and their own time. But we must respect them. The tree is not just wood and leaves, it is a doorway between worlds. After that conversation, I couldn't shake the feeling that the tree was more alive than I had ever imagined. The villagers continued to avoid it, but the whispers grew. Some said they saw shadows moving among the branches at night, while others claimed to hear soft murmurs in the wind when they passed by. Fear and superstition began to seep into the fabric of our daily lives. One day, I decided to go to the tree myself. It was risky, but something deep inside me needed to understand, to face whatever was haunting our village. I waited until dusk when the sky was a deep shade of purple and the air was thick with the scent of the earth cooling down from the day's heat. As I approached the tree, my heart pounded in my chest. The tree seemed larger than I remembered, its roots twisting deep into the ground like ancient fingers grasping at the earth. The bark was rough under my hand, and I could feel a faint vibration, like a heartbeat, pulsing through the wood. I stood there for what felt like hours, listening, waiting. The air around me was still, but then, just as I was about to turn back, I heard it, a soft whisper, almost too quiet to hear. It was not a scream, but a gentle murmur, like someone speaking from far away. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was sad, filled with longing. It was as if the tree itself was trying to communicate, to tell a story that had been forgotten by time. I closed my eyes and listened, letting the sound wash over me. In that moment, I realized that the tree wasn't angry, it was lonely. The spirits inside were not seeking to harm us, they were trapped, yearning for the connection they once had with the living. I understood then that the pact made by our ancestors was not just a simple agreement, it was a bond that needed to be maintained with respect and care. The tree was a reminder of that bond, a link between our world and the spirit world. When I finally walked away from the tree that night, I felt a sense of peace. The fear that had gripped the village began to lift as I shared what I had experienced with Mama Nene and the chief. We started to perform small rituals near the tree, offerings of food and drink, songs, and prayers to honor the spirits and show them that they were not forgotten. The screams never returned after that, and the village slowly returned to its old rhythm. The baobab tree remained, still towering over the edge of the forest, but it no longer seemed menacing. Instead, it stood as a guardian, a symbol of the connection between our world and the mysteries beyond. And though I still felt a shiver every time I passed by, it was no longer a shiver of fear, but of respect for the ancient spirits who watched over us, unseen but always present, reminding us of the delicate balance between the living and the dead.